But let's go to the big CNBC-TV18 breaking story at this point in time. The country's most profitable airline, Indigo's Dalal Street debut has taken off in style, with a 3,000 crore rupee offer being oversubscribed more than 6 times. It's been big financial conglomerates who've decided to book their seats in the biggest IPO that we've seen in the last 3 years. The total QIB portion has been subscribed more than 19 times, and here's why it will augur well for Indigo's holding company, Indigo Aviation, with bids coming in at the higher spectrum of the band, which is capped at 765 rupees a share. The only concern, though, would be the fact that the retail segment has seen a somewhat muted response. Let's go across now to Aditya Ghosh, the man who's been pitching the Indigo story to investors. Aditya, I appreciate you joining us here on CNBC-TV18, and congratulations on closing your IPO. If you can just run us through the final figures as far as the retail subscription is concerned, Aditya.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. I mean, obviously, it's been a hectic past few days, and but it feels good at the moment, and retail is also now up to 96%, as I just saw, and I guess a little more time to go. But having said that, what's happened is now kind of behind us, in the sense that people have come in on the basis of what we've done in the past. But now it's really up to us to come back and deliver on the trust that has been bestowed on us. So pressure on me and expectations from me and my team to be able to come back and deliver on what people expect us to do.
And you are going to have to deliver quarter on quarter now, Aditya, because you are going to be a listed entity. But let me talk to you about specifics. If you can take us through the kind of applications that you got as far as the QIB portion is concerned. Can you take us through the number of applicants that actually came in the QIB category?
So I know that the anchor book had more than 40 investors, and the QIB, of course, saw a huge amount of response, as you said, close to 20 times subscribed. But more than just the numbers, what we feel a sense of pride in is the kind of investors who have now come in either after a long period of time into India, or for the very first time in an IPO in India. So it's just the quality of people, and these are some of the biggest players, some of the most sophisticated investors from around the world, who have seen a lot of companies around the world, and of course some in India as well. And that's what kind of makes us feel good with what we've been able to do. And once again, a lot of trust in us now, a lot of faith in us now. We've got to kind of be able to deliver on that faith and trust.
Aditya, do you believe that the QIB portion and the response that you've actually got in the QIB category, as you were talking about some of the marquee names that have come in, and it would be nice if you could share some of those with us, but is because the aviation story is better tracked, better covered in international markets, and perhaps they've been able to understand the Indigo story much better?
Possibly, because many of these people actually have holdings in some of the very best airlines around the world, some of the most profitable airlines around the world. They've had holdings there for a long period of time. So yes, it is. India is a complex story. The airline business in India has been very different from what you see in many other parts of the world. And in that, for someone to really appreciate what Indigo is doing, how Indigo is just so structurally different from anybody else. But I think as we become a listed company, as people start watching us more carefully, as people start seeing us on delivering on some of the things that we've been saying in the roadshows, I think the understanding for the airline business, and more importantly, how Indigo is just so very unique and different from everybody else, is something that will grow on the Indian investor as well.
A quick comment, Aditya, as far as the retail participation is concerned, and of course in comparison to the QIB category, significantly muted response on the retail side. And we had a bunch of analysts who were talking to us, and they said that perhaps you haven't been able to do a good enough job of selling the story to retail investors. Would you buy that?
I don't know about that. I think there are, in the retail category, a lot of little different factors come into play. The thinking of the retail is a little bit different. But at current stage, with still a little more time to go, 96% retail subscribers is not bad. And actually many of these retail customers are retail investors are also our customers. So I guess there's a bit of that as well. And now the pressure is even more to deliver both as a product that customers use a lot in India, as well as on investors as well.
What about the quota or the category as far as employees is concerned, Aditya? Are you surprised that that's seen a muted response?
No, not really. In our case, you know, the employee base that we have, the kind of salary levels that we have, it's not as a surprise to me at all. It happens in most IPOs, yeah.
Let me talk to you about some of the views that have come in from brokerages, Aditya, and it would be nice for you to be able to articulate very clearly what the strategy is going to be going forward. You know, some of the concerns have to do with the fact of the possibility of the U.S. Federal Reserve raising rates in December and the possibility of that impacting your lease arrangements. Do you believe that that could be a dampener as far as your margins are concerned if the Fed were to hike rates starting December?
Actually, you know, about 75% of our leases are on operating leases, which is a rate. Most of our finance leases are also on fixed rates. So as we've disclosed in the RHP, we don't see that as an issue. And more than anything else, when talking about margins, it all comes back to cost. And for us, the fact that we have the lowest cost structure in excluding fuel in the world, the fact that when we start getting the NEOs, it brings down fuel burn and starts bringing down our cost structure even further. So when you look at the fundamentals of the business, we've taken care to actually focus on the big elements of the cost, whether it is fuel, whether it is maintenance, whether it is employee productivity, and even our aircraft ownership cost is actually one of the lowest. So when you put that all together, we see actually things improving, and of course having the most competitive advantage vis-a-vis any of the other players in India.
Okay, you know, there are two camps, Aditya, and one camp believes that the positives like the fleet addition that we were just talking about or lower crude prices have already been priced into the offer, and hence the offer price leaves very little for investors. The other camp believes that perhaps we're underestimating the benign environment that you're operating in and the fact that you will be able to significantly bring down costs further with the addition of the NEOs and so on and so forth. How do you allay the apprehensions of the camp that believes that the offer price leaves very little room for investors?
So, you know, I'm not an investment banker, so, you know, the price is what investment bankers, you know, come to us with and the board decides. What I do know is how to run an airline and how to run the airline at the lowest cost structure. And as far as fuel price is concerned, actually, if you kind of think about it, with burning less fuel, we have a certain margin against everybody else. When the fuel price goes up, which actually strangely benefits Indigo because our competitive gap vis-a-vis another player actually just expands exponentially. So in some strange way, if fuel price goes up, then Indigo stands to benefit the most.
Okay. Aditya, you know, we do have a draft civil aviation policy being announced tomorrow. What would your expectations be, and how do you believe the new regulations or the proposed regulations could change the competitive landscape and the regulatory environment that you operate in?
I think everybody's, you know, waiting with bated breath. I think it's tomorrow morning, something 10:30 in the morning is the press conference, and we're all waiting with what happens in the civil aviation policy. I have a lot of hope. Because
what would be the key issues on your list if they were to come through in the policy? You believe that you will be even more in an even more favorable regulatory environment?
Things that level out the playing field, things that help in efficiency of the air traffic management environment, about the things that bring about efficiency in maintenance cost and ground handling, etc. So anything that ultimately reduces the cost of doing business in India, I'm all for it. Anything that helps growth and you know, a faster pace of growth, all for it. So a lot of hope in that.
What kind of demand environment are you expecting? We're at the start of the festive season now, Aditya. In the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term, you know, all kinds of estimates have been put out by IATA, by CAPA, and so on and so forth about what the long-term promise looks like. But let me start by asking you about the short-term demand environment, the medium term, and then talk about the long-term prospects.
I think we expect it to be in that kind of late teens, so 18-20% year on year for the for the next few quarters, just as it has been in the past, going up to 9.5% CAGR over the next 20 years. So but although what I'm saying is not rocket science. You look at India, look at the size of India, look at how underpenetrated the aircraft market is. Country of 1.3 billion people, less than 400 commercial airplanes in this country. So there is going to be a huge amount of demand. It's for people like us to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, execute to that perfection, and add more and more airplanes, more and more capacity, so that more people can fly. And hopefully, if cost structures start coming down even further, then the propensity of travel increases even more, and then the growth takes an even bigger kicker.
Aditya, I believe your friends at Go Air are also now contemplating going down the same route and are looking at the possibility of an IPO. And given the fact that you've gone through this process now, what would your advice be to them?
I wish them luck, a lot of black coffees, and go with it with a lot of honesty of purpose. And I truly wish them luck. They're a good bunch of people.
But my final question to you, Aditya, what has been the biggest learning for you through this process of trying to sell the Indigo story to investors, of making sure that that you continue to run this operation in the manner in which you have? What has been the biggest learning as far as you're concerned?
I think it's the reaffirmation of what we've been doing. Look, Sharon, you know this. We've always grown up in India. We never had the opportunity of taking this story everywhere else. So while we knew we were on the right path, it's been an amazing experience to get just reaffirmed every time. We've not had one bad meeting on the road shows. So that's been an amazing experience, knowing that yes, what we did all this while, what we believed in is actually the right path. But as I keep saying, that also means a lot of pressure on us, a lot of expectations from us. We've got to keep our head calm. We've got to kind of forget about now what's happened in the past, look into the future, and come back and deliver on that trust.
Well, Aditya, here's wishing you the very best of luck from all of us here at CNBC-TV18. Congratulations on getting your IPO done, and thanks very much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you, Sharon. As always, great talking to you.
Well, that's Aditya Ghosh there of Indigo. The IPO is done, and now we await the listing. Straight to the